Welcome to this unique session on Navgraha awakening. Thank you for such overwhelming response, and so many people have been excited. That includes my back-end team as well. A lot goes in before every event, so I start with that gratitude. Thank you so much to each one. And let's begin. Close your eyes and take a few deep breaths. Breathe in through your nose and breathe out through your mouth. Breathe in a lot of positive energy. And breathe out remaining stress, worries, anxieties, fears, or frustrations, if any. Continue breathing in and breathing out. Switch over to normal breathing now. Let's invoke all the planets. When I say planets, these are Navgraha as described in classical astrology. Let's invoke a higher consciousness. Radical consciousness. And the ultimate resource energy. Seek their blessings. Seek their guidance. Seek their answers and solutions. Seek deeper insights and the wisdom to make the best out of this amazing opportunity called life. Thank you. And now you can open your eyes. Today, we're going live on YouTube just to make sure that people, if they do not get link, may get YouTube link as well. And that's the reason. Also, today's day, I'm just going to give the conceptual clarity, and the main work may start from tomorrow. So what's the whole concept behind? So if you know even a little bit about astrology, by the way, let me say that my name is Atman Parmar. I'm a homeopath, an ex-hypnotherapist teacher, and also I teach chakras and self-help and self-transformation system. My work is around helping people reset their mindset. I've been exposed to astrology as a child when my parents used to talk about this Graha and that planet which is coming in the way, and the marriage story and the Kundalini and Kundali and the stuff and the vague comments here and there about planets. And then I used to wonder, if really planets are there and do they really influence? So coming from a complete science background, I had my own reservations for years together, did not want to acknowledge their presence. And yet when I was practicing homeopathy and also while working with clients now, I do see how people are going through certain phases which are so critical for them and sometimes more stressful. I'm not talking about the predictive science, which normally people use astrology as. I'm talking about the real elements of life, like any other elements. Certainly, these powerful beings have the influence on us. And this I can say without any doubt today. Yet, these are not the only beings. I also want to tell you that please do not blame for all unhappiness and difficulties in your life. If they are affecting you adversely, probably you haven't really given them the right position in your mind. So even if you know a little bit about astrology, you know that it's not about the planets, but the planets, how they're positioned in your astrological chart, which matters a lot. There is an astrological chart in our subconscious mind. When we give the right position to the right planet in a right way, they're going to be more of an asset to us. They're going to assist us. They're going to gift us all their virtues and positive influence. For them to affect us, we need to be really vulnerable to them. And we can only be vulnerable if we are not in the right position or we haven't given them the right position in our subconscious mind. So this is an attempt, or this is a complete, humble a way of giving the right position to these mighty beings so that they, as well as us, all coexist in harmony, peace, and in a brilliant way. I'm going to talk about a few principles that I have observed, which applies to all elements. So nothing is good and bad. The position that they take or we give them can be good or bad. As I often give you example, even a dustbin in the house, if given an appropriate space, alignment and orientation will be of some meaning to us. Everyone has the position, everyone has the orientation, everyone has the alignment, and everyone has a unique existence. Honor that. There's nothing good and nothing bad. There's nothing horrible or nothing blissful. A lot depends upon the position that we give the elements in our lives. Not only just position, the alignment and orientation. To make it simple, I'm just drinking water from this glass. And if I put this glass upside down or tilted here and there, or if I put this glass on the window sill, it's going to have different application meaning and repercussions. So if I really want to use this glass appropriately, and if I want water to come into this glass or give me this drinking water, I have to hold it in a particular place. Yeah. And any other place is meaningless for me. Any other alignment is meaningless to me. Any other orientation is meaningless to me. Not only just meaningless, sometimes it can become a nuisance. It can also become dangerous, or it can become more difficult element for me. So for anything, any human being, or any element of life, give them the right alignment, orientation, and position. Not only just an astrological chart, but also in your life. And you can do that in your life if you give the right alignment, orientation, and position in your subconscious mind. Want to know more about the theory? Just read Radical Crystalline Mind book. It's been explained there. How alignment, orientation, and positioning helps. So today, while we pay tribute to these powerful, mighty beings called planets or Graha, we are also giving them their respective appropriate position in our subconscious mind. The catalyst keywords to do that is going to be revive, recognize, realign, reorient, and reposition. We have all these elements within us. We have all the planets within us. It's like how a body has DNA, right? We have organs, we have tissues, we have cells, and cells have DNAs, and that DNA represents us. It's a microcosm as well as macrocosm principle. So in a microcosm, there is macrocosm. So in Sukshma, there is Sampurna. And in Sampurna, there is Sukshma. So in that tiny element called DNA, the whole of my body is there. And metaphorically, in the entire cosmos, you are there, and you have the entire cosmos within you. I repeat again, you are a part of the entire cosmos, and the entire cosmos is a part of you. Same way, DNA is a part of you. If you can understand that philosophy, now you are ready to awaken those elements which are part of you. So these Navgraha are not out there. They're also part of you because you are a mighty cosmic being. And if you awaken their presence, their influence within us, you're going to raise your vibrations. So what do you expect out of this? Raised vibrations, raised positivity, a powerful influence of this planet over us, and amazing sense of well-being. So thank you and congratulations for choosing to be a part of these sessions, a series of sessions. We're going to have 9 more sessions, 8 more sessions, totally 9. And we're going to focus on one planet every day. I'm also going to take you through recitation today to awaken, give you just the beginner's experience of raising your vibrations by awakening these elements. But before that, if you have any questions, it would be a good time to ask right now, because after that, I will have the recitation and then I would switch off, but I would want you to just be still and quiet for some time to absorb these vibrations in your body. Yes. Any question? Yes,
Ma'am.
Priyanka. Yeah.
So, good morning, ma'am. Ma'am, I have this question that if someone else, like my husband, has certain Mahadasha and planetary position going on, and he is unaware of that, I am aware of. He does not have any thing in his mind, but I have everything in my mind, and all the doubts and predictions going on inside. So, can I do uh, our the recitation for him so that I can clear the subconscious positioning of his planets that I have in my mind?
Please do not do it on behalf of anyone. Everyone has their own life. They have their own choices. What we think good or bad is not
Yeah.
exactly what it is. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay.
For times, probably they have a growth lined up. We have no rights to interfere in that.
Sure.
If
Thank
you're
you.
getting affected by somebody else's suffering, work on yourself. Probably as you shift, others shift.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Any other question?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am,
Yeah.
I have been told because of my birth chart, there were some issues going on with my health and certain things. So Rahu and Ketu are playing a massive role in my life, and I should be aware of accidents and all of that thing. And like yes, it causes little fear whether it will actually happen. But then I keep myself positive and I say okay, and I keep chanting like it's said that Hanuman Chalisa helps in subduing the effect of these planets. So, what is your uh, view on this, ma'am?
As I said, give right position to right planets in your subconscious mind and everything will settle.
Okay, so just by reciting, I will be able to give them the right position in my birth chart.
Okay. Yes.
Wow,
Not
lovely.
even
Thank
birth
you.
chart. I'm not sure if we can change the birth chart, but
Okay,
give a right position in your subconscious mind. That will go a long way.
okay. And everything will turn into my favor. That's what I
Everything
want.
already in your favor. You will align with the purpose of them being in that place.
Okay, so it said that if it is in, so there are certain adversities also that turns into your favor.
Completely. So the adversities, let me explain to you. There's a beautiful story. Young siblings, they were watching birds creating a nest and then laying eggs. The eggs, were nicely kept in the nest, but they thought, oh my God, the whole nest is on the twigs, and any strong blow of wind will topple the nest, and then what will happen to the young ones? So they took out the nest, brought it home, created a cotton bed, and put lovely those eggs in one place, hoping that it's going to hatch one fine day. They waited, and eventually the whole stinky space alarmed the family members, and they threw away the eggs. You think the siblings did wrong?
Mm, yes,
What
they have to be, uh, everybody has to go through to grow. Is this the,
is it saying that suffering is inevitable always?
okay,
Um, or suffering is needed always? But there is a process in place. The pain that comes is acceptance and rejection.
okay.
When you accept, pain is because of the rejection and adverse response to the life situation.
So I've always been saying that I R5, my need to grow through adversities. So it is a very strong belief that if there are adversities, only then you grow. If there are
That's not,
problems,
yeah,
so
sorry.
we invite adversities in our life so that we can grow. So I don't want to do that.
So rather than focusing on what you don't want, if you can focus on what you want, it would be far easier.
Okay.
Okay.
Growth with ease and happiness. Okay.
So if you've associated the planetary position with adversities and adversities with growth, there's a folder called growth, and all these things are there in that folder. All you need to do is revive, recognize, realign, reorient, and reposition.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Mom.
There's another question. Let me just take it up. Okay. Is there specific or special time when this should be done, or auspicious time right now to do this awakening? Or can it be done anytime throughout the year, or positivity? Okay, this you can do anytime, any day, no problem. Today is a very powerful portal, 9th of September, 9/9. And it also marks completion of many, many patterns and cycles. And that's why the day chosen is this. It would be best to begin today. And yet, if you begin at any point in time, it's fine. Principally, and understanding human behavior, we choose not to keep the training or workshop or courses open forever and for eternity. I'll tell you why, because I have enrolled for so many courses and I've never done them because they have been gifted to me for lifetime. And I always think that I'll do it forever. How many of you have purchased the book and kept it in the rack, never to read again? But if somebody gives you that you have this book for a week, please read it, I'm going to take it back, you'll finish it. So we do not keep the courses open for lifetime because we want you to finish it. We want you to do justice to it. And if you do it at a stretch, finish in 9 days. Of course, we will keep it open for a month because we understand it's live. There will be a few days you may miss out and you can cover up a little later also. And you can also repeat it once again if you really want to, but that's about it. Don't think that it's going to be available forever, so that you definitely would complete the course. And yet on a special request, we may give for a special reason access again, no problem. Okay. Anything else? Any other question? Let's start. Okay. Any more question, please feel free to ask in the group later so that we don't waste time of this particular precious moment of togetherness. So there is a question that we don't know how the planets affect. So how do we know and experience the shift? You will experience an immediate shift in the vibrations, first of all. If you're sensitive enough, you'll experience the immediate shift in the vibrationary pattern. So if your aura is very strong, if your thoughts are very powerful, and if you're very, very optimistic and positive, trust even the worst planetary position will not affect you. So I remember somebody said, oh, your verse is over and good times are coming again. And I was just wondering, oh, if that was worse, then what's going to be the good time like? So what I mean to say is, even so-called planetary verse, if you have a positive way of thinking, a very powerful way of looking at life, planets will not affect you. I certainly do not encourage buying so-called professional astrologers' words that it's a tough time, you're likely to go through accidents. How does that help? I remember going on a long drive, me and my daughter, we were going up hills in Himalayas. I was driving and somebody said, oh, there is a Raj Jyotishi available. And he is there only for, one particular day. And today is the day you should meet. So I went and met him. He was a young guy. I don't think Raj Jyotishi, but anyway. And he looked at my hand and said, oh, your Shani is very weak. And I hope you're not driving. Of course, he was in touch with the person who took me there. Says, I hope you're not driving. You have a danger from metal and you could come across accident. And I kind of smiled and said, okay. But he wanted me to buy a stone there because he was sitting in as a part of the jewelry shop. And I could see that game. But if I buy that thought that, oh, accident, and if I drive, imagine what would have happened. Nothing happened. It happened, this story happened 3 years back. And I haven't yet come across any accident. And even if I do, probably there would be some brilliance in it. Maybe I have to be still in one place so that I meditate and I grow internally. We don't know the brilliant designs, right? So thoughts like this can manifest much more than the planets. So this is my general advice and caution to all of you that even if seeming experts tell you that these are adversities you're going through and you will be going through, what will affect the most is not the planetary position, but your belief that you've borrowed and owned. Be careful about those beliefs and rise beyond them. Even if seeming adversities are there, there's a brilliance in that adversities. Discover that zone and align as soon as possible to the brilliance. And once you get the brilliance, the adversities will not affect you. The adversities are like those gift in the wrappers. So if somebody gives you a wrapper with a gift, if you don't like a wrapper, you're lesser likely to open it immediately. You may just keep it aside, I'll open it later. And the benevolent universe understands and knows that you haven't yet opened, but you need to get that gift. So it comes in another wrapper. You don't like it, keep it aside, it comes in another wrapper. The good wrappers are already gifted, so they're not gifted anymore. So you have lesser and lesser appealing wrappers. It starts with brown paper and a newspaper and a toilet paper and so on. Till the time one fine day, you say, okay, fine, let me open. Once you open and take the gift, the wrapper can vanish. Your life situations are exactly these. The wrappers can vanish. They are the wrappers. They're carrying the brilliant gift for you. When you calm down, when you're at peace, you'll be able to discover that brilliance. And let me tell you, I can assure you, the moment you pick up the gift, the wrappers need not exist. So don't worry about adversities at all. Even if you have it, even if you're anticipating, even if it has happened, if you can see the brilliance in it, you can discover the brilliance in it and remain aligned to the brilliance in it, life is going to be amazing. And you're doing justice to all the conspiracies and efforts which are put in together to help you discover that brilliance. So honor that brilliance and align to the brilliance to get the best out of it. How much time do we have? I think because of this time difference, Deepa or anyone? I'll go accordingly.
I think we are done.
It's 8:42, ma'am.
Okay, 8:10. We've already finished. But
Yeah.
anyway, if you
Yes,
stay,
Atman. It was, yeah, but you can take 5 more minutes. It's fine.
So let's just close our eyes and begin with the very, very basic restation. And just feel the shift, okay? Breathe in and breathe out. We revive the planets in us. We recognize the planets in us. We realign the planets in us. We reorient the planets in us. We reposition the planets in us. We awaken the planets in us. We awaken ourselves with awakened planets in us. We revive the sun in us. We recognize the sun in us. We realign the sun in us. We reorient the sun in us. We reposition the sun in us. We awaken the sun in us. We awaken ourselves with awakened sun in us. We revive the sun in us. We recognize the sun in us. We realign the sun in us. We reorient the sun in us. We reposition the sun in us. We awaken the sun in us. We awaken ourselves with awakened sun in us. We revive the moon in us. We recognize the moon in us. We realign the moon in us. We reorient the moon in us. We reposition the moon in us. We awaken the moon in us. We awaken with the awakened moon in us. We revive the moon in us. We recognize the moon in us. We realign the moon in us. We reorient the moon in us. We reposition the moon in us. We awaken the moon in us. We awaken ourselves with awakened moon in us. We revive the moon in us. We recognize the moon in us. We realign the moon in us. We reorient the moon in us. We reposition the moon in us. We awaken the moon in us. We awaken the awakened moon in us. We revive the moon in us. We recognize the moon in us. We realign the moon in us. We reorient the moon in us. We reposition the moon in us. We awaken the moon in us. We awaken the awakened moon in us. We revive the Mars in us. We recognize the Mars in us. We realign the Mars in us. We reorient the Mars in us. We reposition the Mars in us. We awaken the Mars in us. We awaken the awakened Mars in us. We revive the Mars in us. We recognize the Mars in us. We realign the Mars in us. We reorient the Mars in us. We reposition the Mars in us. We awaken the Mars in us. We awaken the awakened Mars in us. We revive the Mars in us. We recognize the Mars in us. We realign the Mars in us. We reorient the Mars in us. We reposition the Mars in us. We awaken the Mars in us. We awaken ourselves with awakened Mars in us. We revive the Mercury in us. We recognize the Mercury in us. We realign the Mercury in us. We reorient the Mercury in us. We reposition the Mercury in us. We awaken the Mercury in us. We awaken ourselves with awakened Mercury in us. We revive the Mercury in us. We recognize the Mercury in us. We realign the Mercury in us. We reorient the Mercury in us. We reposition the Mercury in us. We awaken the Mercury in us. We awaken the awakened Mercury in us. We revive the Mercury in us. We recognize the Mercury in us. We realign the Mercury in us. We reorient the Mercury in us. We reposition the Mercury in us. We awaken the awakened Mercury in us. We awaken ourselves with awakened Mercury in us. We revive the Jupiter in us. We recognize the Jupiter in us. We realign the Jupiter in us. We reorient the Jupiter in us. We reposition the Jupiter in us. We awaken the Jupiter in us. We awaken with awakened Jupiter in us. We revive the Jupiter in us. We recognize the Jupiter in us. We realign the Jupiter in us. We reorient the Jupiter in us. We reposition the Jupiter in us. We awaken the Jupiter in us. We awaken the awakened Jupiter in us. We revive the Jupiter in us. We recognize the Jupiter in us. We realign the Jupiter in us. We reorient the Jupiter in us. We reposition the Jupiter in us. We awaken the Jupiter in us. We awaken the awaken Jupiter in us. We revive the Jupiter in us. We recognize the Jupiter in us. We realign the Jupiter in us. We reorient the Jupiter in us. We reposition Jupiter in us. We awaken the Jupiter in us. We awaken the awakened Jupiter in us. We revive the Saturn in us. We recognize the Saturn in us. We realign the Saturn in us. We reorient the Saturn in us. We reposition the Saturn in us. We awaken the Saturn in us. We awaken the awakened Saturn in us. We revive the Saturn in us. We recognize the Saturn in us. We realign the Saturn in us. We reorient the Saturn in us. We reposition the Saturn in us. We awaken the Saturn in us. We awaken the awakened Saturn in us. We revive the Saturn in us. We recognize the Saturn in us. We realign the Saturn in us. We reorient the Saturn in us. We reposition the Saturn in us. We awaken the Saturn in us. We awaken the awakened Saturn in us. We revive the Rahu and Ketu in us. We recognize the Rahu and Ketu in us. We realign the Rahu and Ketu in us. We reorient the Rahu and Ketu in us. We reposition the Rahu and Ketu in us. We awaken the Rahu and Ketu in us. We awaken the awakened Rahu and Ketu in us. We revive the Rahu and Ketu in us. We recognize the Rahu and Ketu in us. We realign the Rahu and Ketu in us. We reorient the Rahu and Ketu in us. We reposition the Rahu and Ketu in us. We awaken the Rahu and Ketu in us. We awaken ourselves with awakened Rahu and Ketu in us. We revive Rahu and Ketu in us. We recognize Rahu and Ketu in us. We realign Rahu and Ketu in us. We reorient Rahu and Ketu in us. We reposition Rahu and Ketu in us. We awaken with Rahu and Ketu in us. We awaken with awakened Rahu and Ketu in us. We revive Rahu and Ketu in us. We recognize Rahu and Ketu in us. We realign Rahu and Ketu in us. We reorient the Rahu and Ketu in us. We reposition the Rahu and Ketu in us. We awaken the Rahu and Ketu in us. We awaken ourselves with awakened Rahu and Ketu in us. We revive ourselves. We recognize ourselves. We realign ourselves. We reorient ourselves. We reposition ourselves. We awaken ourselves. We awaken the awakened us. We revive ourselves. We recognize ourselves. We realign ourselves. We reorient ourselves. We reposition ourselves. We awaken ourselves. We awaken the awakened self. We revive ourselves. We recognize ourselves. We realign ourselves. We reorient ourselves. We reposition ourselves. We awaken ourselves. We awaken the awakened selves. We revive ourselves. We recognize ourselves. We realign ourselves. We reorient ourselves. We reposition ourselves. We awaken ourselves. We awaken the awakened selves. We revive ourselves. We recognize ourselves. We realign ourselves. We reorient ourselves. We reposition ourselves. We awaken ourselves. We awaken the awakened self. So that's all for today. Please give me the feedback. If you're watching this on YouTube, also leave your comments. If you're doing live, please feel free to express your opinion, questions in the WhatsApp group. And if you're watching this as a part of the course later, I'll be happy to have comments even on that. Thank you so much for joining. And after watching YouTube video, if you want to still join today, you can still do that till tomorrow, that is 10th of September. Looking forward to see all of you tomorrow. Bye-bye.